Hi, I'm Dr. Todd Pesek. I'm the director of the Center for Healing Across Cultures at Cleveland State University, Cleveland, Ohio. I study plants and people, past and present, for our future as a global community. The Center for Healing Across Cultures is a scholarship center with research and service outlets in 7 different countries internationally, where we research to learn from traditional health and wellness practices and promoting holistic health and wellness nationally and internationally in a sustainable fashion. I'm here today with my 2 co-directors, Drs. Ron Remnick and Murali Nair, who also work on this international scholarship platform together with me and all of our students.
Hi, I'm Ron Remnick, member of the Department of Anthropology, co-director of the Center for Healing Across Cultures, and my primary work has been in Ethiopia, and I'm interested in nutritional habits of traditional peoples and why our population in the U.S. is one of the sicker populations of the industrialized country with the highest rates of medical costs in the industrialized world. And I see that as a real issue to research and to advise people on how to get back on a more traditional track.
Namaste, my name is Murali Nair. I direct the School of Social Work at Cleveland State University in Ohio, USA. Along with being a social worker by profession, I am very much interested in these healing traditions. I was born in India, though I am an Asian, American, Indian in United States. I still do a lot of field studies in the southwest corner of India, and I am a vegan by my lifestyle. And what I would like to concentrate is more on the connectivity between body, mind, environment, and spirit. If you look at the Far Eastern culture, and when we talk about food, we are not only looking at what we eat through the mouth. There is something more and much, much more beyond it. And I also co-direct the Center for Healing Across the Culture at this university. And I would like to share with you in the future about my field studies on cross-cultural understanding of centenarians, people who are 100+ years old. What is the secret of their long life? All the best.
One of the things that we do here at the center is offer a number of courses in experiential educational programming for students, and we teach environmental health, complementary alternative medicine, alternative health systems, medical anthropology, healing across cultures, and courses of the like. And we always get a multitude of questions from students and community members and whatnot that have so many wonderful questions, and oftentimes they repeat themselves, these questions. And so we thought that it would be interesting and usable for both classes and a larger audience to answer some of these questions collectively in this format. One other thing that I'd like to mention is elaborating on Dr. Murali Nair's statement on our premise. Here at the center, we've published numerous works and scholarship in peer-reviewed journals and books and whatnot. And basically, our seminal, our cornerstone publication is one called Healing Across Cultures, Learning from Traditions. It's published in the Journal of EcoHealth. And essentially what this article talks about is the fact that how our work internationally demonstrates that the health of an individual is reliant on the inextricable linkage between the health of the mind, the body, the spirit, but also that triad set in the context of healthful environmental surroundings, both social and natural worlds. These are things that unfortunately too often are forgotten by Western medical practices and whatnot. So we're working with traditional health and wellness practices and peoples the world over in learning new ways forward for sustainable holistic healthcare. And recently, we've published another paper on the secrets of long life in the journal Explore, and a textbook called Healing Across Cultures in the Good Life, An Approach to Holistic Health, which is published with Cengage Learning. And so today we have 3 questions that are commonly asked by students that we'd like to answer for you.
This question's for Dr. Pesek. What are superfoods?
Superfoods, that's a great question. I'm going to start out with a quote. "Let thy food be the medicine, and thy medicine be the food." This is a quote by the great Greek physician Hippocrates, who's hailed by many to be the father of modern medicine. And he was so right. See, today we have this conundrum. It's for the first time in humanity, people are eating plenty, but they're starving. To illustrate this fact, look at our nation's poor people. We have poor people who are obese. This is a very unfortunate circumstance. And what it means is that foods that people are eating are calorie rich, but nutrient sparse. Superfoods are exactly the opposite. Superfoods are foods that are calorie sparse and nutrient dense. So things that are really good for you. Fruits, veggies, all the types of traditional foods and plant stuffs that our ancestors thrived on. Blueberries with anthocyanins, and you got cruciferous vegetables with loads of chlorophyll, and and all of the very specific things that we need for healthful body function. And along those lines, we often get the question whether or not people need to take dietary supplements and/or augment their diets with healthful foods or superfoods. The answer is unequivocally yes. You need to eat healthfully. You need to make sure that you're getting daily supplies of healthy sources of omega-3 fatty acids, and you need to make sure that you're getting chlorophylls and other plant pigments that are necessary for health, carotenoids, luteins, zeaxanthines, the list goes on and on. So if you yes, organics are more nutritious. So you want to diversify the field, eat much less animal products, eat much more vegetable products, drink lots of water, and stay away from the no-nos. Refined white flour, refined white sugar, coffee, those kind of, and any processed foods, and avoid the hydrogenated oils like the plague.
Dr. Remnick, can you explain to us why we are addicted to foods that are bad for us?
Yeah. Why are we addicted to foods that are bad for us? First of all, for the last million years, and probably beyond that, we've existed as hunters and gatherers and foragers, and it looks like from our record we can see that 85% of our diet that we evolved on, that our neurology, physiology, and anatomy is adapted to, is vegetarian products. And there's 10 to 15% that populations ate animal products. So that gives you an idea of the proportion of vegetation to animal protein that we evolved on over 100,000 generations or more. So what happens is that we find that when you're foraging in the wilderness and you're looking for grasses and grains that are growing naturally on grasses, nuts, berries, roots, tubers, and what did I leave out? These kind of things that are grown in the wild and naturally give us the building blocks that we evolved on. And what we find is that there was quite a scarcity of fat and sugar in these natural products. So as we evolved through the various stages to Homo sapiens, we find that our brains have become very sensitized to fat and sugar, which means that our pleasure centers respond to fat and sugar. And we can see that with one of the only existing hunters and gatherers today, the Hmong people of the Kalahari Desert, who really relish fat or sweet things when they get to it because it's so sparse, and yet we really, we need it to function. So what happens today is that we have inundated our brains and our systems with those things that our pleasure centers respond to, which is fat and sugar. And what I think I've read recently that one of the most dangerous substances in our civilization today is high fructose corn syrup. All our processed foods seem to have high fructose corn syrup in, which is a condensed form of sugar. And so many of our foods today are loaded with fat. And as Dr. Pesek says also, that we are eating nutrient-sparse foods. Processed foods, for instance, have very little nutrition in it, and a lot of chemicals that create a toxic load that we carry around, making us vulnerable to many other kinds of diseases that people in so-called third world countries have no knowledge of. Like I mentioned before, we have a very high rate of illness and a very high cost of medical care, and yet I work in what's called a third world country that people call backward and disease-ridden and famine-stricken, and yet these people are extremely healthy. My friend Medhanite died at 103. My friend Falaka lived into his 90s. These were rampantly healthy people who were still plowing their fields, riding their mules, and converting with women when they were so-called elders. How is that happening? Well, it happens because they're eating foods that are devoid of harmful chemicals and food that is grown, as we say, organically. They don't even know about organic because everything's organic. The last 2 years I spent, in the mid-90s, I spent 2 years in Ethiopia, and I had my kids with me, and we had our own garden. Came back to Cleveland State, and there was a Burger King concession in the cafeteria, and we got 3 Junior Whoppers. And so my 10-year-old took a bite out of his Whopper, and being David who he is, he spit it out on the ground. And that was because we were already adapted to and used to food that is nutrient rich, and we weren't used to all the chemicals and processing that goes into fast food, which America seems to thrive on. So what we need to do is create a revolution where people start thinking seriously about their health and realize that that can of pop that has 22 teaspoons of sugar in it might not kill you right away, but it adds up. And by the time your hormones are changing in middle age, you're in for some serious problems. We're the only country that has an epidemic of childhood diabetes and adult diabetes. The only country in the world. How's that happening? It's happening because people are duped by advertising that seduces them to eat food that tastes good to them, but is not good for them.
Dr. Nair, to finish up, how do traditional diets confer health better than our Western diet?
When we talk about diet in the Far Eastern culture, we are not only looking at food. For example, even the air we breathe. Typically, the way you breathe air, we do it subconsciously, but there they do it consciously. And also, what we consume, typically in the Far Eastern culture, we believe that our stomach is only the size when you put both your hand together. That's the size of your stomach. So any food you eat more than what you can hold in both of your hand, you're eating more. And also, in Far Eastern culture, they believe in fasting. You need to give your system a break instead of constantly, consuming and digesting, So fasting once a week is very, very good. And also consuming more and more water. That's also very important. Some other things are built into the lifestyle from infancy all the way to old age, We cannot do it overnight. It is something, it's a learned behavior. That's something we need to build into our diet and eating habit in general, and lifestyle in particular.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for visiting us, and come back again.